You have anybody? I'll turn it off. So I have it. Good. But here, this one.
You want a magic number for tonight? We have 6 weeks old to 96 here tonight.
What?
We have somebody 6 weeks old and somebody 96 tonight. It's kind of a nice number.
Okay.
Hello?
Erev Tov. Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Nova, Michael.
טוב ומנעים,
שבט אחים,
גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים,
שבט אחים, גם יחד. Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. What a great thing is to welcome Shabbat together. In order to enter this space that we are trying to create in this Shabbat, I invite you to find your spot, to find your place. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים, גם יחד. 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 As we welcome this Shabbat in community, this Shabbat that, as many other Shabbatot during this summer, is a flip-flop Shabbat, and if you are not wearing flip-flops, we want you to know that you are welcome anyway. We try to enter Shabbat in a relaxed, communal environment. We're trying to open space for our hearts and souls. I invite you to open your Sidurim on page 129. And if you don't have a Sidur and you don't know where the Sidurim, our prayer books are, there's a wonderful table behind your back, and there are many of those there. As we try to center our hearts in love, we start our service with the words from the Song of the Songs. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. Ani ledodi vedodi li. Dodi li, ואני לא הרואה בשושנים. דודי לי, אני לא הרואה בשושנים. מי סוקולה מן
המדבר, מן המדבר. מקוטרת מור ולבונה, מור ולבונה. דודי לי, אני לא הרואה בשושנים. דודי לי, אני לא הרואה בשושנים. ליבתי לי, אחותי חלה, אחותי חלה.
בואי צפון, בואי תימן, בואי תימן.
דודי לי, ואני לא הרואה בשושנים. דודי לי, אני לא הרואה בשושנים.
And now, yes, I would like to invite in this Erev Shabbat our executive director, interim executive director, Shanda, to light Shabbat candles with us and for us as we recognize the work that our team is doing to put together these beautiful experiences of Flip-Flops Shabbat, and our volunteers that work behind the scenes and also in front of the scene to make sure that we have the opportunity to celebrate Shabbat in community. You can follow Shanda on page 120. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu bemitzvot להדליק נר של Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Shanda, and once again, thank you to our volunteers and our staff. We'll now turn.
As we turn our pages to page 130, for our Psalm opening Shabbat, Psalm 95, Lechu Neranana, I want us to actually pause and take in those words. Lechu Neranana, let us sing. Now, challenge by choice, for sure, but I do want this is a bit of a participation sport here. And this evening, I want to ask and invite all of us who are here to join us in song, to offer your voice, even if it's quiet, even if it's loud, even if it's unattached to anything like key. Just join us, sing. And Lechu Neranana, I love that it's our opening to this Shabbat. Let it be the opening to all of us singing together as we join together.
Page 131. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו
turn our page, I want to give us all a second chance as we sing together Mizmor Shir Chadash. Let us sing together a new song. The name of this congregation is Shir Chadash. Let us come together and sing a new song. For those of you who are feeling maybe a little shy and reluctant at the first one, I encourage you all, bring it in, join us as we go sing a new song together here.
We now turn our Sirim to page 134. Psalm 95.
Turn our page to 136. Mizmor David. Now turn our Sidurim to page 138. Every psalm is set in front of one of the days of the week to help us somehow acknowledge
the wonders and the many blessings that we experience in our daily lives, in our routines. At the center of Kabbalat Shabbat is this poem, Lecha Dodi. This bakasha, this requirement, this petition we have to find holiness in our lives. Think of Shabbat as a bride, as a queen, and we invite that majestic presence to enter not only this space, but to enter our hearts, to take a place in our hearts. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
שמעו וזכרו בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו לתפארת ולתהילה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא בחום הברכה. מראש מקרן נסוכה, סוף מעשה ומחשבה תחילה.
לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי,
ררי, כי בהורך
קומי אורי. התעוררי means wake up. ריורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך מילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תיכלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהבי. בך יחסו עניי הימים, ונפנתי אל תילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. And as we turn toward the entrance of the synagogue, and go figure where that is, we try to acknowledge, to think of the presence of the queen, of the bride, the majestic presence that can't be ignored and have to be recognized. The presence of Shabbat in our hearts.
בואי בשלום עטרת מעלה, גם בשמחה ובתולה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי קלה.
lecha dodi, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת לקבלה, lecha dodi, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת לקבלה.
And now, while we are standing, we have Welcome Shabbat. It's a great opportunity to welcome each other. If this is your first time at Shir Hadash and you want to be acknowledged, you may say, you raise your hand, say your name. Welcome. What's your name? Jonathan. Baruch haba. All the rest of the people of Israel have been here forever. Okay, that's great. So we'll take a moment, but there's certainly people, there are certainly individuals that you don't recognize. Try to make eye contact with someone you don't recognize and say Shabbat Shalom. We'll take a moment to say good Shabbos to each other. Shabbat לקבלה, אוי קלה, אוי קלה, אוי קלה, אוי קלה, אוי קלה, ולשבת לקבלה, אוי קלה, אוי קלה, אוי קלה. לחדודי, לחדודי לקראת קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. לחדודי, לחדודי לקראת קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, בואי קלה. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, בואי קלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. דודי, לך דודי לקראת קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. בואי שקלה, בואי קלה, בואי קלה. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, ולשבת לקבלה. בואי קלה, בואי קלה, בואי קלה. And we know that it's close to impossible now to ask you to stop, but keep that spirit. Keep that spirit for as soon as we conclude Kabbalat Shabbat and we have a long opportunity to say hello to each other. We'll now turn our Sidurim to page 140. We will grant Shabbat, we will dedicate to Shabbat one more song, one more psalm. Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat.
מזמור שיר, שיר ליום השבת. 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 מזמור שיר, שיר ליום השבת.
Page 144, Chetzi Kaddish, as we transition between Kabbalat Shabbat and Ma'arif Shel Shabbat, the evening service of Shabbat.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ועל מה דברו חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
אמן.
יש ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשם בריחו, לילה מן כל מחתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, נמירה ועלמה, מאימנו אמן.
We'll now turn our Sidurim to page 146. Please rise for Baruch. Baruch et Adonai, המבורך.
As we transition into our Mariv service, we take a moment to acknowledge the distinction between day and night, taking a moment to recognize that actually in Judaism our day begins anew at this moment as we join together and roll into darkness. Roll into
light, night becomes day, day turns to night, roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night, roll yom v'layla, roll amit mechoshet, roll amit mechoshet, mechoshet mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night, roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night.
Baruch atah Adonai Ma'arif Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings one evening. And as we get closer to the Shema, take a moment to think about an eternal love, an everlasting source of love, of unconditional love. Abatul Olam. I invite you to close your eyes just for a moment, if you can, if you feel comfortable doing so. And think about something that looks like, that feels like a source of unconditional love for you in your life, in your world. Allow that love that we recognize in our lives surround us and feed us, nurture us. And as we do so, I invite you to become aware of your breath for a moment. Breathe in and out. To let that love, that presence fill your heart. I invite you to take a deep breath. As we say, "Be'avatcha al tasir mimenu lo lamim." Dear God, please never remove your love. Please never let that love be strange to me. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Israel. Blessed are you, Adonai, who love your people Israel. Now turn our series to page 152. The Shema. Shema Israel, Adonai
Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We're on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אמת אמונה כל צודק הים עלינו. כי אדוני אלוהינו ואין זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל עמו. We continue with the silent reading on page 156. Your children witness your presence. They praise your name in gratitude and they accepted your sovereignty. Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices with joy. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you, O God. Michamocha ne'edar ba'kodesh. That sense of awe that emerges when we experience niflaot, when we experience miracles, wonders in our lives. That it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praise are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Gaal Israel. As we turn our Siurim to page 160, we think of the joy that emerges from the ability that we know we have of facing obstacles in our lives, even obstacles that sometimes feel too big, too difficult. We remind ourselves that sometimes the only way through is to walk forward, and one step at a time to figure out the path forward. It's in that place in that intersection of joy between the unknown and the things that we know we have in our hearts, and the many things that we don't know, that we ask for internal peace.
השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום ואתה ואמונה. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועבודה. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים עיר הקודש. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over the holy city, city of Shalom, Yerushalayim. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת. It's a covenant for us to keep Shabbat as a part of our lives. And as we were thinking earlier this week with a beloved group of our community, and to somehow let Shabbat to keep us alive, to be a beacon of sanity in our sometimes crazy weeks. ושמרו בני ישראל את
השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדותם בריבונה.
ושמרו בני ישראל את
השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדותם בריבונה.
בני ישראל, אותי ועולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדותם בריבונה. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדותם בריבונה. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדותם בריבונה. וביום השביעי, you can breathe now, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדותם בריבונה.
We continue in silence with Filat Amidah on page 166. תביא כל עולם הרם, חיימתי ואתה עורר להושי. Muy buenas noches. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני, צורי וגואלי, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and my Redeemer. Say shalom bimromav, may the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth, and let us say,
Amen.
At this point of our service, we take a moment to acknowledge people dealing with illness, people dealing with illness in their bodies, in their souls. We think of those also that are carrying and dealing with addictions, and those that are carrying grief. If there is a name that you'd like to share in this Erev Shabbat, in this evening of Shabbat, we invite you to do so as we go around our community. ¿Sí en esta? Dolet Barrita.
Shalom ben Daniel.
We're thinking of Bruce Roberts, Alfreda Mastman, Diane Siegel, Gail Frankel, Scott Van Gundy, Daphne Talmor, Dave Stoll, Greg Herb, Murray Siegel, Lori Chaikin, Sue Later, Laura Steinberg, Margaret McGowan, Carol Rosenberg, Debbie Pink, Linda Lieberman, Richard Rabich, Bernice Paris, Franklin Wolfson, Karen Katzman, Jerry Levy, Gary Trombley, and Paul Jerry Miller. You can join us as we pray together, as we turn our Sidurim to page 371 for Misha Berach. Us, refuah shlema, a complete recovery and well-being. Oh, this happened to me. Sorry. I'm fine. Now we're good. Sorry, friends. No, we're not really good, but we'll change it later. So, I first want to acknowledge that our cantor is taking this weekend with her family, and we'll see her next week. So, we wish her from here Shabbat Shalom. I also want to introduce, for the second time in our community, I shall say, our beloved friend. Used to be my beloved friend, as our beloved friend. Our beloved friend, Rabbi Daniel Levin. I will just say about Daniel a couple of things. Rabbi Daniel Levin is a rabbi and a rabbinical student. You ask him about that later. He's going to be one of the only ones that have like 2 smichas, maybe 3 one day or 4. Who knows?
Why stop at 2?
He's gathering smichas, rabbinical ordinations, and Rabbi Levin is a rabbinical fellow at Temple Beth Tikva in Orange County. He's the senior educator for Hillel of Orange County. He's a fantastic educator, I'll say. And he's also a professor in UCI of Jewish Studies. Am I forgetting anything else?
I do have time to sleep occasionally.
Yeah, and he actually is a good climber. We'll say that. Baruch haba.
Does this go up?
You want to take this one? Go for it.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So nice to be here. This is nice. The only instruction that Rabbi Nico gave when I came this weekend is he texted me, bring flip-flops. After that, there was no other instruction here. So I'm very happy to be here, and all the more so if I can wear flip-flops to a Shabbat service. So if we remember, probably one of the more famous, the more enigmatic scenes in movie history for any film buffs here is at the end of the first Indiana Jones, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, where after the entire movie unfolds and Indiana Jones, of course, goes through all these trials and crazy tribulations rescuing the Ark. There's some history there, right? It's right before World War II, and at the end, it seems like the movie is going to end happily ever after. And for those who have never seen the movie, I apologize, this is going to be a spoiler, but it did come out in 1981. So I did give you a little bit of time to prepare for this. So at the end of the movie, after going through all these trials to find this ark, you have this scene where you're in this major government compound in an unknown location. And this ark that apparently has mystical powers that Indiana Jones spends the entire movie trying to rescue is put away in this massive government compound in an unknown location next to hundreds, if not thousands, of other magical objects that the government is trying to hide from us. And so I want you to imagine for a second that you have been cast in a role for the second Indiana Jones. I do know that they have made others since then, but imagine you have been granted access to this fictional government compound. And you're, of course, as a very excited member of the Jewish community, your first task, right, you can have any government secret you want, but of course you want to go straight for the ark, right? Where is this ark that, again, just a little bit of background, we spent so much time throughout the book of Exodus talking about the painstaking rules of how to build this ark, the materials, right? All of Leviticus is spent talking about building it and what materials and who's going to build it and when do you carry it. And so, of course, you're looking for this ark and you're opening hundreds of boxes and finding God knows what is hidden in these government compounds. And finally, you're excited because you find the ark and you open it up and you're, of course, expecting to find the 10 Commandments, right? The Luchot that Moses gets on Mount Sinai. And so you open this ark and you pull out the nice set of 10 Commandments, right? They're perhaps a little bit lighter than you thought they'd be. But then something else comes out. And as you begin to open the door, all of this gravel begins to just come straight out of the ark. And you're wondering if you did something wrong, right? The one set of tablets there are complete. But aside from that, you're getting all of these rocks and dust, and everybody in the room is sort of looking at you weird. What is this rock and gravel doing in this ark? So we take a step back, and where we're at this week in this week's Torah portion, this Parsha, is Parsha Akev. And we're now in our third chapter, our third Torah portion in the long book of Deuteronomy, which, just a little bit of background, Deuteronomy is just a long speech. And so if you ever think that a rabbi goes on for too long, you can imagine the Israelites facing Moses, who speaks for, I think it's actually several weeks over the course of the book of Deuteronomy. And this is also an important lesson in Jewish storytelling and Jewish memory embeddedness. Because, of course, the nation that is hearing the book of Deuteronomy is actually the next generation. And so you imagine all of these people standing there, and you have people that never were in Egypt before, they were never at Mount Sinai, they probably weren't alive for the majority of the trek through the desert, and Moses is giving them their history. He's telling them what they need to know before they go through that next crucial step, go into the land of Eretz Yisrael, into the land of Israel, right? What do you need to know? This is the Judaism 101. And so, of course, he goes through all of the previous biblical history, and then smack in the middle of this week's Torah portion, Moses lands on probably the lowest point in the Bible, which I'm sure if I asked this question, most of you would shout out, well, of course, that's the sin of the golden calf. And the sin of the golden calf, it always struck me as weird. And I remember being a child learning about the golden calf in Hebrew school, and I always thought to myself, there seem to be a lot of worse things that go on throughout the entirety of the Hebrew Bible than a bunch of Jews getting impatient that Moses is up on a mountain for 40 days and building a golden calf, right? And I think it's a fair question to some extent. What is so bad about, right, why is this the sin that, to some extent, defines the generation? And so Moses begins to tell this next generation about the golden calf. But before we go to what Moses said, we have to actually understand what the problem was. I have learned one or two things since I was 10 years old in Hebrew school, I hope at least. And one of the things that I think is important to understand about idolatry and about why the Torah, and especially the book of Deuteronomy, by the way, spends so much time railing against idolatry. Why is idolatry the worst thing ever? It's not because of the physical action of actually showing up and deciding, well, I'm going to build a nice statue in gold, and somebody else maybe in silver, and somebody else in wood. The problem with idolatry is a problem that I think affects all of us today to some extent. That Judaism's teaching us that there's something perverse, something unethical even, in attempting to capture something that's infinite in something finite. because we're limiting ourselves. The second we try to understand God, even understand, say, the power of love that we can have for humans, the second we try to define the worth of a human being and compare it to something tangible, something material, right, we've lost all sense of idealism. And so the golden calf represents this point in the journey, right, the lowest point in Jewish history, where they were so idealistic. They're at Mount Sinai. They're about to get the morals, the ideals that are going to keep us going for 3,000 plus years. And all of a sudden, that's traded in for finite materialism. And so Moses is saying this, and you can imagine now the feeling of the nation. They're all excited because they're camped out on the east side of the Jordan. For those who have been to the land of Israel, the Jordan River is not very big, and so you can easily see across it. So they're probably getting a little bit impatient. They're probably excited, scared, right? You can imagine the emotions. And Moses is telling them the sin that either half of them did in their youth, or the sin that half of their parents did in their youth. And as Moses begins to recount the end of the story, and he gets to the part about our ark, he says something strange. And here is what Moses says. He's talking about, of course, the story of him coming down with the first set of commandments, and he gets upset, or according to some commentaries, once he sees the sin of the golden calf, he just becomes so saddened that he could no longer have the strength to hold them up. And Moses said as follows, I will inscribe on the tablets the commandments that were on the first tablets that were smashed, and you shall deposit them in the ark. I'm going to read that one more time. I will inscribe on the tablets the commandments that were on the first tablets that were smashed, and you shall deposit them in the ark. So now anybody who's ever taken a high school or a college writing class and understands how not to write using vague grammar knows that this is immediately a problem. Because imagine if I leave from this wonderful weekend being here, and let's say I met 45 wonderful people over the course of the weekend, and I'm telling my wife or some friends back home about the weekend, and I say, I had a great conversation with them, right? My wife has no idea if I'm talking about one person, maybe 5 people, maybe every single conversation I had was incredible and wonderful. And the Torah makes the same vague grammatical error, right? It's unclear what Moses is actually supposed to deposit into the ark, right? It seems, right, if you probably ask a group of people, of course Moses is supposed to put the new, full, complete version of the tablets in the ark. But when the Talmud gets to this, and the rabbis in the Talmud were the original high school teacher who is very uptight about grammar and is always trying to play and derive further wisdom based off of this vague grammar of the Torah, the rabbis of the Talmud say as follows, and you shall deposit them in the ark. We learn from this, the Talmud says, that Moses deposited both sets of luchot, both sets of tablets in the ark, the whole one that he wrote after the golden calf, and the first set in their crumbled up form. And this teaches, I think, a profound lesson about failure and about brokenness. Foundationally, that our brokenness, that error, is not something to be ashamed of. Whenever we make mistakes in life, whenever we get to points where we feel our brokenness most profoundly, we're not supposed to just leave it in the metaphorical wilderness and try to rush on and move on. But rather, it's specifically our broken points and our failures and our low points and all of that rubble that's supposed to be carried with us. And we actually have to go through, our failures go through their own process of sanctification as we deposit them in our personal arks. But yet when we actually keep reading the story, it turns out that there's another fundamental difference between the first set and the second set. And that's who authored them. See, the first set of tablets were written by God. It's as if Moses waltzed up the mountain and God had already prepared the nice set of commandments for him, right? They were nicely laid out, 5 on one side, 5 on the other, handed them to Moses. Moses said, thank you so much, God, and he made his way down. After the ordeal of the golden calf, it's as if God says, listen, I already wrote round 1. Now it's actually up to you to write it. And so the second set of 10 commandments is actually written by Moses. And this actually leads some of the medieval Kabbalists. If you ever want to see interesting takes and opinions on what goes on in the Torah, I implore you to open up any book of medieval Kabbalah. And the medieval Kabbalists, again, they were not shy in their opinions, right? These are the same medieval Kabbalists, by the way, that in Genesis, they actually cheered Adam and Eve on from eating from the tree of knowledge, right? A lot of us grew up thinking that that was a bad thing. The medieval Kabbalists said, excellent, you're supposed to rebel, especially when it's about acquiring forbidden knowledge. And so these same medieval Kabbalists say, well, hey, wait a minute, perhaps it might have been a good thing that the first set of luchot, that the first set of commandments were smashed, because it actually doesn't really help humans, people, society, the Jewish people, the entire world, to have this set of commandments that were handwritten by God, all lofty up in the clouds. We actually have to each go through the process of writing our own tablets. And so we come back to this original idea, and we understand that a life with no failure, a goal with no challenges, a journey with no hurdles, is actually devoid of meaning. In Judaism, we implore everybody to take both sets of these tablets. The broken tablets representing a shortcoming to be overcome, and these new set of tablets highlighting that we actually are the author of our own destiny, and we have the power to rewrite our future. So I want to finish with just one fascinating story in the Talmud. And the story really gets at, I think, why, as you open that ark in this government compound, you are so proud now to see that there isn't just that one nice set of tablets, but actually have the rubble. And this, in the rabbinic mind, this is a text from Masechet Shabbat, Tractate Shabbat, probably written sometime in the 3rd century CE. And the rabbis here are telling a fascinating story of an argument that happened when Moses actually went up to Sinai the first time. And so the story starts. When Moses ascended on Mount Sinai to receive the Torah, the angels gathered around the Holy One and said to him, Master of the world, what is somebody born of a woman doing among us? And so, again, you paint the picture. Moses has just made his journey up Mount Sinai. He expects there to be a nice party for him, right? He hasn't eaten for 40 days, 40 nights. And all of a sudden, what he gets is a bunch of angels sitting around, yelling at God, saying, God, why are you giving it to Moses, right? He's human. And God says to him, Moses has come to receive the Torah. What should I say to him? The angel said before God, the coveted treasure that was stored away by you for 1,000 generations before the world was created, you intend to give it to flesh and blood? What is a mortal that you should remember him, or the son of man that you should recall him? Hashem, our master, how mighty is your name throughout the world, so that you should bestow your glory upon the heavens? And so the angels are saying, why are you giving it to humans? Right? They're just flesh and blood. They're prone to error. They're fallible. Right? You've had this Torah for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Why are you wasting it on Moses and the Jewish people? And so God apparently didn't have an answer. God was reticent. And God turns to Moses, right, who newly hiked up the mountain, and said, Moses, answer them. Moses, of course, says, Master of the world, I am fearful, lest they burn me with the breath in their mouths. God said to him, grasp a hold of my throne of glory, and then give them an answer. And this pacifies Moses. And so Moses says to God, Master of the world, this Torah that you're giving me, what's written in it? And God says, well, the first of the 10 commandments says, I am Hashem your God who has taken you out of the land of Egypt. Moses turns to the angels. Did you guys descend to Egypt? Were you enslaved to Pharaoh? Why should the Torah be yours? Moses turns back to God. What else is written in this Torah? God says, well, the second commandment, there shall be unto you no gods of others. Do not live among the nations who worship idols. Moses turns to the angels. Do you guys live among nations who worship idols? Do you ever have a desire to worship material things? And Moses goes one more time. He says, God, what else is written in the Torah? You shall not steal. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not be jealous. You shall not lie. And Moses turns to the angels and says, do you guys lie? Are you guys jealous? Is there ever an evil inclination among you? Immediately, the story in the Talmud ends. The angels concede to the Holy One, blessed be he, and Moses goes down with the Torah. It's only when we're willing to acknowledge our brokenness and carry it with us that the chance for true shleimut, for true wholeness, is made possible. Shabbat shalom.
Rabbi Daniel. We'll continue our service on page 587, and Rabbi Daniel will be staying with us tomorrow morning in Torah study. And during the service, we will be discussing very lightly death penalty. So if you would like to join us, for those that are not following the news, the Pittsburgh shooter was given a death penalty, and there's a question about in this time of slicha, of forgiveness that we beg from heaven as we are preparing for the High Holies. Where does Judaism stand in that context? I'm not sure we will be able to provide an answer, but we will engage in some discussion around it. We will now turn our student to page 587. Please rise for Aleinu Leshabeach. Aleinu Leshabeach לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר וראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לאחד את שמו, וגול עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, היום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. We'll now take a moment to acknowledge mourners in our community. If you are during the first 7 days of mourning, Shiva, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. Daniel Knight, Barbara's husband, his memory be a blessing. If you are during the cycle of the first 30 days of mourning, Shloshim, please rise. Share with us who you're remembering. If you are during the cycle of the first year of mourning, please rise and share with us who you're remembering. Siva Fersing.
My sister, Andrea Cameron. My cousin, Bryce Light.
Jack Wall, my husband.
If you have your side this week, the anniversary, you can please remain standing so we can acknowledge you. If you have a yard side, the anniversary of someone passing by this time of the year, in years past, please rise and share with us who is remembering.
Abraham Wall.
Thank you. Pardon?
The congregation at this time offers our condolences to Barbara on the death of her husband, and member and Elisa Koff-Ginsburg on the death of her mother, Sandra Koff. We remember loved ones recently who death has taken from us. Generosa Benito, Marcel Cunningham, Madeline Salzman, Kevin Scott, Robert Kilgore, Dahlia Schneider, Michael Pleiner, Joyce Levine, Shirley Israel, Thelma Turner, Marilyn Grevin, Alan Fagan, Jonah Anschel, Sharon Lowenbraun, and Sheila Bamberger. Dr. Grace Deutsch, Clarissa Glotzer, Stephen Borenstein, Richard Kennemer, Ethel Schenker, Varda Sachi, Rabbi Talit Shavit, Jack Long, Virginia Larson, Miriam Maurer, Bob Sturman, Lenora Wang, Adam Richard Spilka, Shlomo Asips, Howard Levine, Barbara Lombard, Claire London, Drago Herman, Meryl Greenwald, Samuel Greenwald, Anita Kamila, Janet Wall, Charlene Kilgore, Ezra Satchi, Gideon Hoffer, Alvin Kramer Siegel, Vlasta Vejinovic, Galina Butarina, Karen and Balzano, Lillian Berman, Robert Bruce Myers, Abraham Karas, Scott Safadi, Norman Green, Marilyn Silverman, Leslie Heinall, David Green, Jenny Forge, Estelle Abrams, and Spencer Caney. And we remember as well those who died at the season in years past. Abraham Ball and Arthur Siegel, Bernice Much and Esther Frankel, Larry Solomon, Steve Brody, and Ziva Foruzan. Now you can support our community by standing or sitting, joining us with your voices, with your hearts, for Kaddish Tom, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 598.
יתגדל ויתקדש שם רבה. בעלמא דברה חילותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון ובמכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עלמיה. ברך, וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא. ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה ובריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה. ורם ברמה, ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו amen. In the memories of your dear ones, be always a blessing in your life. Yesichram Baruch. You may be seated.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. I want to just highlight a few announcements for us.
Who's the board rep? Do you
we have a rep?
We were wondering. We look at each other. Who's the board rep? We didn't know. Okay, great. No, please come.
Please do. Please do.
She has her own thing. Good.
I saw that look between the two of you. I thought, oh, are you thinking about me? I don't know.
We were thinking about you, Susan.
I'll go over some of the things in the calendar in a second, but first I wanted to say how much I've enjoyed these Shabbat. Yeah, I see some nodding. You know, I think coming out of the years of isolation has just been wonderful. I think I lost social skills. I didn't know how to talk to people anymore, and it's just been so great to, I've met new people, I've talked to people that I hadn't seen for years, and it's just been so wonderful. And you know, it doesn't happen with just a snap of the fingers. There's a lot of people working to make it happen. So I see Mark sitting there behind the console and Diego setting up all the chairs and all the volunteers today who put out the food and who are going to help clean up. And I'd like to put in a plug. We need some more volunteers for the coming up weeks. And so I left a volunteer sheet. Oh, I think we took it down already. But give me a call or call the office if you're willing to come in and work on some of the Fridays that are coming up. It was really hard the first couple of weeks, but now we have it down. And so you're not going to die if you come and do it. We've got the work a lot better. I fell asleep in the middle of eating dinner just like this. You know, I was so tired after the first week. But anyway, and
survive.
Not that now I feel like I'm becoming a rabbi that I'm talking too much.
we are making
starting to make the music. You know, pull me up. But I would like to go through some of the announcements right now. So, thank you, Rabbi Zilan. That was a great Var Torah, and thank you for being here next week. And then next week, on Sunday is a whole big time. Is that we're having an open house at 10:30, and then at 12 our little barbecue, and that is a really fun thing to do. We'll have people out and tables and things for the children, and a way to get back and integrate it. And then the next big thing that's happening is on Sunday, August 20th, because Kulanu starts then. And so the bagel breakfast is sponsored by the Men's Club, and then cycling, and then the first day of Kulanu learning, and so it'll be a wonderful day. So the other things are in here, but I just wanted to point to those highlights.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
I want to add one bit, which is that tomorrow morning you can join us for Torah study at 9:30 a.m., which will be taught by our visiting scholar.
Kiddush, page 122. Everybody, please rise.
וירא ויבקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ חוטבעם, ויכל אלוהים ביום מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי וקדש אותו, כי בו שמע מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סביב רענן, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קדישנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו.
בשבת קודשו, באהבה וברצון, הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית. כי ביום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. הבנו בחרת, אותנו קידשת, עם כל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש Chaim, Chaim. And we make sure that we share blessings also with each other. If your children or your family members are near you, we encourage you to get close to each other. And if you're on your own, make sure that you make eye contact with someone. If you recognize someone standing alone, make sure that you don't let adopt someone. Adopt visually or maybe invite that person to stand next to you. Let's make sure that we share blessings with each other. Our children, one of them, keep coming. Baruch Hashem, thank God. As we acknowledge the blessings that we have and that we have built every single Shabbat, we take a moment to acknowledge the wonders that we also create in our world. We say to our children, Yasimchem Elohim, Kefraim וכמנשה, Yasimchem Elohim, Kesar Rivka Rachel Belea. May God inspire you to be like the loving parents of the house of Israel. And we say to all of you, Yevrechechem Adonai, Beish Merechem, may God bless you and protect you. Yer Adonai panav elechem, bichkunekem. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha. May you find within you God's presence always, and may you embrace your brokenness, and you carry your brokenness. May you acknowledge that brokenness, and by acknowledging that, you carry blessings. The blessing of being human, the blessing of faith, having experiences in life and learning from them. And maybe from that place, you find shalom, wholeness. V'yasem lechem shalom. Adonai os le'amav iten. Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. May God bless its peoples with peace. Shabbat shalom, mevorach everybody. Good Shabbos. Shabbat Israel Amcha, sim le'olam. Shabbat Israel Amcha, sim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon, b'chol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, b'chol hashalom. Shalom Adonai Israel Amcha, sim le'olam. Shalom Adonai Israel Amcha, sim le'olam. Sim le'olam. Good Shabbos. Craig, can I ask you a favor? Can you do a motzi for the people of Israel? There, no, there.
Microphone?
No, just whatever, yes, raise the challah and say a motzi. Amen.
Amen.
Bravo, everybody. You know them? Scott.